This is a cinema lens, and it's made to make your videos look that much closer to some of your favorite movies. The idea of owning cinema lenses has gained popularity in the last handful of years thanks to companies like Sirui, who have been putting out budget-friendly, APS-C-sized cinema lenses for you to afford. However, do you actually need one? Let's talk about cinema lenses. Most cine lenses are actually built to take a lot of abuse on film sets. Most of them are built like tanks using high quality materials because they know they are going to be handled a lot and they need to be able to last. Very rarely are you going to find a good cine lens that is made cheaply. Even the more budget-friendly versions of cine lenses now are actually built with high quality materials, and they're actually built to last. It may seem compact and lightweight, but once you get it in your hand, you really feel that heft. Something you might not realize about cinema lenses is they are all made to be completely manual. That is right, your focus and your aperture and everything else you can think of coming from a lens is going to be manually adjusted. Which, if you're a solo filmmaker like myself, this might pose a pretty tricky issue with you, especially when it comes to focusing on yourself. So if you rely a whole lot on autofocus, cinema lenses may not be the route for you. But if you're willing to put in the work to get your focus nailed just right when you're shooting yourself, they're definitely worth the quality of the image that you can get out of them. It just takes a lot more work. And you're probably going to sacrifice a lot more footage than you think when you go to review it and see that you actually missed focus. Typically, when it comes to cine lenses versus still lenses, cine lenses are going to have a higher image quality. This may not always be the case because there are some prime photo still lenses that are actually really high on the image quality spectrum, but usually cine lenses are made to have a better image quality than stills lenses. Going down that same avenue, most cine lenses are actually prime lenses. There are zoom cine lenses that you can get, but they are a whole lot more expensive and a lot harder to get. You will probably spend an arm and a leg to get a zoom cine lens. And because of that, typically cine lenses do come in sets. So the Sirui Nightwalker lens series has actually been expanded, and they have focal lengths anywhere from 16mm up to I think 75. I personally don't own a whole entire set of these lenses. I just use the 24 because this equates to a 35mm on a full frame equivalent with my APS-C camera, and this is usually the lens focal length that I want to get with my cinematic shots. But the reason that they usually come in sets is so that when you need to get a different focal length, you can swap out for a very similar lens that's going to be a similar size and weight. So if you're using gimbals, whatever camera rig you have set up with a follow focus, they're going to actually be able to hot swap even though the focal length is different. So that delivers a lot of consistency when you're working on a film set and you're shooting whatever you're shooting. It gives you consistency with your setup, and it gives you consistency with the colors across the board of your focal lengths. Again, cinema lenses are all about efficiency and getting the job done on a set. Cinema lenses are also usually meant to be worked by a few people. You're going to have a camera operator, somebody working the focus, and every other aspect of getting the shot is going to be worked on as a team so that you can each nail each aspect and get the perfect shot. This does make things a little more difficult if you are a solo filmmaker because you have to do everything yourself, and like I said earlier, getting focus when you're trying to shoot yourself can be pretty tricky sometimes, but once you get the hang of it, you can get some pretty cool shots. But when it comes to being behind the camera, you have to be a one-man band of working that focus ring, aperture ring, and using your camera to the fullest extent possible to get the shots that you need and nail them perfectly. Another aspect of cinema lenses that may or may not be a good thing is that the cost of them compared to stills lenses is usually much higher. Now, this might seem a little contradicting because the Sirui Nightwalker series alone is a lot more affordable than a lot of other stills lenses, but that's because these are meant to be budget cinema lenses. Typically, if you're looking for a certain focal length, a cinema lens is going to cost quite a bit more than a stills lens. They're made of higher quality material to last on a film set, like I said earlier, and they need to be made to have the utmost consistency across the board when you're making film. Higher quality materials and lower tolerances equal much more money that you have to spend to get that cinema quality you're looking for. Another thing to mention with the Nightwalker series specifically is this is meant for APS-C size sensors. So if you use these on a full frame camera, you may have to zoom in a little bit and crop in to avoid getting some vignetting on your image. So ultimately, do you need to buy a cinema lens to make your films look cinematic? My answer honestly is no. I have made a whole lot of content up until I bought this first cinema lens that I've ever owned, and I've been able to get some pretty cinematic looks for my own music videos and short films that I've made using stills photo lenses. And most of the time when you go and buy a new lens for your camera, whether you shoot video or take photos, it's going to be a stills lens regardless. Cinema lenses are kind of that next step in filmmaking if you want to take that step to make your image that much better and to kind of buy into the whole world of filmmaking. You could go your entire life shooting your own short films and film projects using only stills lenses and never buying a single cinema lens, and you should still be able to get some really high quality cinematic looks without those cine lenses. It's kind of like comparing cars. You might have a beat up old 2011 Ford Focus that gets you from point A to point B, can hit highway speeds, maybe a little faster if you need it, but then you can also get some kind of Ferrari or something that can go 212 miles per hour. That can still get you from point A to point B, but it's got a lot of other extra bells and whistles and quality that are built into it. Ford Focus is like the stills lenses and the Ferrari is like the cinema lenses. Both are going to drive you and get you from point A to point B in a similar fashion, but the higher end Ferrari just has more bells and whistles and are meant for a higher level of driving. It can get you from point A to point B much faster and it'll look a whole lot cooler doing it. But it's going to cost you a whole arm and a whole leg. I've only just gotten my feet wet in the world of cinema lenses, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But I have made all the content that I have ever made up until just recently using stills lenses. So you can definitely get cinematic qualities using those lenses if you know what you're doing, and you can manipulate the things that you use in your arsenal, from lights to setting to your environment to your editing, your color grading, and your focal lengths. There's a lot of aspects to making something cinematic that matter more than just having a cinematic lens. Owning a cinema lens doesn't automatically make your films look more cinematic. There are still a lot of variables that you have to perfect to be able to get that cinematic look. Having a cine lens is just kind of like having a boost to help you get there a little bit easier. If you want to start venturing into the world of cinema lenses and the Nightwalker series is something that piqued your interest, I'll leave a link down in the description below for the very specific one that I used myself and bought recently. It's a great lens. I've been able to get some really cool stuff out of it so far, and it's been quite an experience. Let me know what you think about the debate between stills and cinema lenses down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and keep creating.